Well, it's a good question, by the way. Meaning, why do we go in space? Why do we go to the moon? Why should we go to Mars? It's a more essential question than people think. Today, people say, "Ah, we have to, so we go to." Uh, I would answer it differently. We don't have to, but in humanity's history, people always want to discover, to go to the United States that were not the United States, it was America, and it was even India for Christopher Columbus. So he didn't know where he was going. But what he knew is that he was going somewhere to discover something. And the research, progress, discover things is essential for humanity. If we want to make progress in not only in science but in humanity, and I would say in humanism, well, we just cannot stay at home and say everything goes well and we just forget about the world. The idea to go to space is linked with that. It's also a sort of I would say necessity for humanity to discover and to go further than just to be on earth and to wait. I don't know for what, by the way.
Yeah, I think Julia's question is very relevant, but let's not forget one thing: is we became aware of the fragility of our Earth specifically when, for the first time, it was in the 70s, we saw 60s and 70s, we saw the image of this very fragile blue planet, and we all remember that picture, even if we were not born at that time. And that was the beginning of the environmental consciousness. And we all know today one of the biggest challenges we are faced with is climate change. And I think space first opened up the minds, made us conscious about that. And secondly, today, actually, space is not just to do things in space, has actually a consequence very practically on our everyday life. It allows, we will talk about that maybe later, to better produce food and to better help citizens move around, and maybe to make also transport more efficient, more clean. It helps also to prevent, or maybe not prevent, but at least find a solution when you have big climate events, big disasters. So space today is an essential part of how we better live on our planet. So these two things are not disconnected. At the contrary, they are very interlinked. We need space to better live on the planet. Well, yeah, indeed, JT sounds like a rock star, but let's assume it's a he. So again, a very relevant question. I would not say it increases or optimizes agricultural production, but definitely today, probably not today, but in the near future, we will see some breakthroughs, especially on how can we better optimize resources in water. We all know water scarcity with a planet that will soon have 10 billion inhabitants will become one of the very, very critical topics, be it for everybody's life, but also strategically. Think also that we will have water shortages that might bring big migrations. Secondly, food will become more scarce. Not only will be more, but the challenge we have with climate change, that we will have also big parts of the planet that will not have a capacity anymore to produce as much, so you will have a tension. So how can we increase yield? And third, how can we increase that without necessarily using the traditional means, which was pesticides, etc., which were all the chemicals that we used in the past decades to grow more crops. So we will probably need much smarter space observation to know where can we grow what, and what is the impact on climate? Because today, there's no real relationship between climate policy and agricultural policies. We need to make these two policies, which often are look at the European Union, these are some of the most important budgets, agriculture and climate. Today, they are not related enough, and we need to make sure that we are not doing individual strategies, but we advance together. So again, JT's question is very relevant, and the two are interlinked.
Yes, clearly, in a lot of programs, being the Galileo program or the Copernicus program for Earth observation, what we are trying to do, of course, we are not going to help agriculture, but what we can do is to help and to look at the soil, for instance, because satellites can do that. They can look at a soil uh, beneath the level of the soil, so 1 meter beneath the soil, so they can say, you know, you should better grow up. I don't know, all trees there, or um, maize or another crop. So it's important to know what the earth is about and what we can produce in the territories. So that is why it's fine, as to me, to have satellites, because they cannot replace agricultural policy, but they can help agricultural policy. I always say that we need more space in order to have a better definition and a better implementation of all European policies, being agricultural policies, transport policies, environment policies, and so on. This is really essential. I hope it's not over. I mean, uh, we have seen during years, during decades, that the essential thing is in collaboration. Member states alone cannot do things uh, because they are too little. Even China is too little, and they one day they will understand it. Today they say, well, we have to improve what we do, so we have to show that we will be the first there and there. So they do it alone. But this will end like it was an end for the US and like it was an end for the Soviet Union and today Russia. Well, today with Russia, clearly we have a problem. That's a fact. They have a problem with us, but this will end. This is, you know, that we are working. I was mentioning Russia. We are working with Russia since 75, and since we had an Apollo Soyuz space station built together. It was in the Cold War. So even then, we worked together. Today we stopped. Well, they stopped the collaboration, but it will start again, because you know, to go to moon or to go to to Mars or to the moon is not one nation that can do this. It's also a project for humanity, for all of us, and all of us. It's not one member state or one state.
On this one, I'm indeed very concerned, like Evgeny seems to be. Let's remember that even in darkest hours of the Cold War, so the confrontation between the Soviet Union and the US and the West in general, we still had cooperation in space. In the 70s, there was this very, very famous handshake between a US astronaut and a Soviet cosmonaut. Look, we even have different names for somebody we sent in space, and they met. You had Skylab, which was a common scientific organization. So even with what you could say very, very different systems at that time, under Brezhnev and all these Soviet leaders, we still had cooperation. Since February 24th, all this has stopped. And apart one cosmonaut who is still in the International Space Station, most cooperation in space have been cancelled between Russia and the rest of the world. So this is very worrying. I would, as a glimpse of hope, say that the challenges we're facing on Earth, we talked about climate change, we talk about geopolitics, we talk about the fact that we have a resource scarcity. I mean, if we want to go into new energies like renewables, we will need new metals. Maybe they will all not be present on Earth, and maybe we don't want to exploit them on Earth. Think about those who are, for example, in the bottom of the oceans. I don't think we want to do deep sea mining. So probably space will be an area where you will see these opportunities. And hopefully, one of the ways we will see that the current crisis is not over, but at least is in the brink of getting better, is when we will see again cooperation in space, which by definition is a common good, which should not be weaponized, which is belonging to the whole humanity. So I'm a bit maybe idealistic, but I think we need to see a positive future for that. But currently, indeed, the picture is pretty grim.